Howdy, y'all. Just going to give everyone about another minute to launch to join, but we won't wait too long because I want to make sure we keep this nice and short. Um, while we're waiting for some more folks to join, just as a heads up, I don't think you'll see a chat on the bottom of your screen, but you will see a Q&A button. That's how you can ask any questions, make any comments, what have you. If anyone feels so inclined, you can definitely use the Q&A button right now and let us know where you're coming in from. I am from Tacoma, Washington, and in the background you don't see her. She's running ops for us. Tatum is in our headquarters in Los Angeles. I see a bunch of people coming in now. All right, great. Sweet. All right, well, let's just get started. So, for those who are just joining us right now, just as a heads up, we will be emailing you the full link to the recording of this as well, so you won't miss a thing. Anyway, so hi everyone. My name is RC and I'm from BuildOps. And for those who don't know, BuildOps is a platform that empowers commercial contractors to run their entire business from just one single place, basically. And I'm quite thrilled and honored to have with us today Matt Blauch, newly appointed, actually, might I add, newly appointed president of Blauch Brothers, with us today, as well as Andy Gorer, who is the service GM. And their team has done an incredible job of turning what used to be seasonal business into year-round revenue machine. So today we'll dive into some of those strategies of what the team has used to keep those things moving forward, even after the peak season rush. Two quick housekeeping notes. I kind of mentioned one earlier. So we want this to be a conversation. So by all means, drop any questions you have into the Q&A, and we'll find ways to integrate them. If we don't answer them during the call right now, we can definitely follow up on email and answer those questions for you. And also, in just about a minute or two, we're going to be launching a poll question. It's gonna show up on your screen basically, and it's gonna really help us understand, where your biggest gap is and where we should be focusing the conversation. So if you could answer that in a moment, that'd be fantastic. All right, without further ado, folks, Matt, Andy, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Oh, and there's a poll. Can you tell us a little bit about your company, Blauch Brothers? A little bit like where you're located, a little bit about your history as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thanks for having us today. Real honor to be invited to this. Yeah, so Blau Brothers is located in Harrisonburg, Virginia. It's kind of a smallish city on the western side of Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, some folks might be familiar with James Madison University. That's kind of the local university. They kind of put us on the map. Um, yeah, been in business since 1954. My grandfather started the business,
Amazing.
and a few of his brothers were involved in the business at different times. They ended up selling to my dad and my uncle, who ran the business for many years. My uncle retired. Oh man, it's probably been about 8 years ago. My uncle retired. My dad purchased the business at the time. Brought my brother and I into ownership as well as our CFO.
Yep.
And here next June, my brother and I will be purchasing the business from our dad.
Oh,
Uh,
there you
so,
go.
yeah, third generation here. So they
Wow.
always say that the third generation is the one that ruins the business. So I figure they've got low expectations. So we've got only upwards to go.
Wait, wait, is that are you just making that up or do they really say that the
No,
third?
that's really what they say. I think they say
Oh, that's
first
fantastic.
generation builds it, second generation spends the money, third generation ruins it, or something along those lines. I don't have the stats on top of my head, but it's pretty rare for a business to make it past third generation. So I figure they've set the bar
Interesting.
low for us.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, this is apropos to the conversation today, then for sure.
yeah,
Thanks for the folks who. Oh, by the way, we did actually want to shout out Unified Group as well. I did want to make reference to that as well. Unified Group is who connected Blah Brothers to Build Ops and also specifically me to you all for this conversation as well. So I don't know if you wanted to mention a thing or two about Unified Group on your end as well. If you
yeah, great peer group we're part of nationwide. Members from the East Coast all the way over to the West Coast have several forums throughout the year. It's a group made up of mostly companies that offer construction and service,
wow.
mechanical contractors. But yeah, best in class contractors, really good group. We get a whole lot out of them. So yeah, great group. If anyone's interested, uh, we do offer market exclusivity. So, for any of the folks that are on the call, if you're in a market with another member, unfortunately, there wouldn't be an opportunity now, but might be down the road.
Yeah,
But yeah, certainly check us out.
great. I just want to make reference to the poll. So a bunch of y'all, most of you all contributed to this poll, and just to give you a level set here. So the biggest response was for improving off-season planning. At 45% of you all said that that is the biggest gap that you have right now. The next one was expanding maintenance agreements, which is actually something we'll dive into in a moment as well. Any thoughts on these questions here, Matt and Andy?
Give me the question and the answer again there. I apologize,
Yeah,
RC.
so it's which of these areas is the biggest gap in your business right now? And so we've got number one biggest gap is improving off-season planning, which is basically the entire conversation today that we have.
Yeah,
The next one under that is expanding maintenance agreements was the biggest gap that folks have. And
yeah,
then turning one-time jobs into repeat business. And then the smallest gap is using data to drive decisions.
yeah. Yeah, so maybe I'll start by talking about the kind of the second one there, improving maintenance agreements and capitalizing on those. That's something I think we've done a fairly good job on here. One of the things I think we might get into it a little bit later, so I don't want to talk about it too much now, but we always make an effort to do what's right by the customer, even if it means shooting us in the foot for a sale. There's been times we go out and they're asking us to price a unit replacement, and we discover that, hey, you've only got a dirty coil. Let us clean the coil. We'll get your unit back up and running. And all of a sudden, our competition might be pricing a unit replacement, and we've saved them from
Ah,
replacing the unit. So we don't get the sale of a unit today, but we just delivered exceptional value to that customer. Then when their PM comes up for renewal, we oftentimes can capitalize on that. So that's
can
that's one of
I
the things I think our team's done really well with
Can
here.
I ask so by the way, and for everyone in the audience here, a lot of the questions I'm going to ask might seem I'm not afraid of asking dumb questions. I guess is the fastest way to get to that point. So my dumb question for right now, the first of many I'm sure for today is there like a is there a cultural thing that has to happen inside your company in order to be okay with not trying to make that huge sale right now? Like, how does that shift happen, right? That where you're like, okay, like we'll do good by the customer understanding, like we're gonna not make that huge sale right now, but that's gonna pay dividends, or we assume it's gonna pay dividends in the long
Yeah.
run. How does that happen? How does that culture shift happen?
Yeah. So that's it absolutely takes a cultural shift for any company that might not be doing that currently. Um, for us, we went about it a number of years ago. We developed, determined, whatever you want to call it, set our mission statement as enriching lives.
Okay.
So that's for customers, for employees, for the general public that we might run into, vendors, and anyone. We want anyone that we interact with we want us to enrich their lives. Along with that, we set a couple core values, which are selfless, passionate, and evolving.
Hmm.
And we make a lot of our big decisions here, including hiring and firing, based on those kind of four things: enriching lives, selfless, passionate, and evolving. And if we don't feel like folks meet those criteria, they won't have a spot on the team here. And so I think by sticking to those, that's really helped us build that culture where people know that, hey, our expectation is that you do right by the customer. We aren't here to rip them off, sell a part that they don't need or sell a piece of equipment that they don't need. We treat them right, and then they become a customer for life.
Hmm.
um, they might not become a customer tomorrow. It might take a couple of years, but almost always they end up becoming a customer for a very long time for us.
What and by the way, folks, for anyone who wants, if you have questions, I have one question that I can ask you all if you want to, and this is for the audience specifically. Like, is anyone in the audience finding maintenance agreements tricky? Is it a difficult thing for you all to work into your business naturally? And as folks answer that question, I'll turn to you now, Matt and Andy. Like, what what challenges do you typically experience with maintenance agreements? Is there a specific type of customer that you might find like is harder to get into a maintenance agreement? Is it a particular kind of um, I don't know, equipment? What challenges have you experienced in your company?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the challenges that we have is we are kind of the I don't know. We refer to ourselves sometimes as if anyone here has seen the movie Little Giants.
Been a long
We've
time.
got yeah in our market here we've got our largest competitor, good company, but they're a Comfort Systems group. For anyone that's heard of Comfort Systems, they're I don't know if they are the largest, but they're a very large, conglomeration of mechanical and a couple electrical uh, contractors. Um, so I would say one of our biggest struggles is that they've kind of entrenched themselves a few places.
Hmm.
Um, they sell contracts, not agreements. So oftentimes, we'll go out, a customer will want to work with us, but they're locked into maybe another 2 years, 3 years in a contract with our competitor. And it's a contract that at least to the customer. Now they might be able to get out of it, but there's some legal wording in there that makes it seem like the customer would have to pay the full contract amount if they tried to get out early.
Okay. Right.
Now, if a customer fought that, I don't know how hard our competitor would push that. But that's certainly been one of the things that's been a bit of a struggle for us is, we'll get a call from a customer, hey, my current provider can't figure this out for me. Could you come look at it? We go out, solve the problem, start talking to them about a maintenance agreement, and all of a sudden, hey, yeah, I'd love to, but I've got another year and a half on my contract with your competitor, and I can't get out of it, or else I have to pay the whole thing. So that's one thing we bump into a good bit here.
Okay, so let me dive into so you talk to contracts, agreements as if different. What is the differentiation between contracts and agreements and in your point of view?
Yeah, so with us, we sell agreements. If we're performing an agreement for a customer and we get halfway through it and they aren't happy with us, they can cancel it. We aren't going to hold them to a 2 year contract.
Right.
If we are performing poorly, they shouldn't have to continue utilizing our services.
Going back to your mission again, right? Like going
Yeah,
back to doing, yeah,
yeah,
interesting. It is interesting that one of your biggest struggles is one of your immediate present struggles is in reality potentially like a longer term benefit to you, right? Because these customers are feeling a pain point. Like they feel locked in. Like that's not a good feeling. Like it's like trying to opt out of an email like newsletter thing. And you're like, where the hell's the button to opt out of this thing? And like now I don't like now I'm very angry with the brand because I just want to freaking opt out of this newsletter, right?
yeah,
Same with these companies, these customers, right? They're locked into this company and they don't want to feel like locked in. So in the end, like that ends up becoming potentially an easier selling point for you later down the road when they do end up ending that contract or when at the time when they can end that contract, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Interesting. All right, let's shift gears to pull through work. Um, so question for the group in general. Again, this is for anybody in attendance. For those of you dealing with seasonal slowdowns, do you find a hard time of turning one-time jobs into repeat business? And so turning the question over to you guys, tell me a little bit about how you create a culture of pull through work at your company.
Yeah, so I'll take a stab at it, and then Andy might even be able to
There
add a
we
good
go.
bit to this. But we really encourage our technicians here to develop relationships with our customers.
Again,
Uh,
yeah. Okay. This is
we're,
this is
we're
a constant theme, right? This
yeah,
yeah. Okay, go on.
yeah, we're certainly far from perfect with this, but we try to, if we know that, hey, X customer really enjoys, this tech, we try to keep that tech going back to that
Oh, I
facility,
see. I see. Yeah.
which has a number of benefits. But one in particular is that they build that relationship, they build that trust, and when we recommend something, they know that, hey, this is legit. We need to think about doing this. So Andy's done a really good job the last couple of years building that culture with his team of techs in our southern office. So Andy, I don't know if you want to talk to that a little bit about maybe what you did to encourage that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Building the trust and the relationship is extremely important. And one of the tools that we use to do that is we tell our technicians that, we're here to solve, provide solutions. We're not just here to change parts, right? And one of the ways we can do that is by, the techs need to slow down a little bit, make sure that, hey, just because you found one part wrong doesn't mean that's the only thing that's wrong with this entire system. So take your time. We don't rush them. Our dispatchers don't force them off of a job to get to somewhere else. So we give them the time to do a really, really good job. And I think that's why our customers really come back to us, because they know that, hey, if there's something truly wrong, we will find it. It may
Yeah.
take us a little bit longer than our competitor, because we're doing such a thorough job. But at the end of the day, they don't have callbacks, they don't have downtime, so they really appreciate that from us.
Is there any kind of prep conversation, like warning, like because you may not solve it fast enough, right? Because you're being more methodical and more intentional about these solutions. Uh, a customer might be like, one customer might be very frustrated that it's not happening as fast as they might expect, or maybe have experienced in a previous relationship or partnership with another company. So do you have like a talk track? Do you prep anyone else, or do you find that it's just like this relationship building that sort of solves the problem in and of itself?
No, really, the relationship building solves itself. We find that a lot of our customers, once they build that rapport and they know that, hey, if Charles comes on site, my boiler issue will be solved.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
they
right.
have that technician. They're very happy to see those people come on site, and we don't have a problem with that. Like Matt said, our customers just simply approve it because they know we provide them the solution. We're not there to just get in and get out and get paid.
If if and when techs leave, either they move somewhere else in the company or they just move on, what kind of experience does a customer have for that? Do you like is there a period of you bring on a new tech to shadow this other one to kind of introduce slowly? Is there like some sort of correspondence, like meet your new tech? How do you make sure that that relationship bonding is has a longer shelf life than just one individual, essentially?
Sure, sure. One of the things that we do is we're always have a bench. We have some sort of succession planning. So usually our technicians, especially our high end ones that have those excellent relationships, they have
Yeah.
those excellent troubleshooting skills. They're usually partnered with someone else. We want to take advantage of those techs not just by providing excellent service to our customers, but also by providing training to our up and coming technicians or
Mhm.
exposing them to maybe some new equipment. So usually if we've got a technician that's going to be leaving, he's spent enough time already with another technician on site and then made that connection with the customer. They're experienced with the equipment. So it's typically a fairly easy transition for us to say, hey, you know what, Bobby no longer works here. He's decided that he wanted to move to California. But Tom over here, he's been working with Bobby for the last year and a half, and he really knows your stuff, so he'll be taking great care of you.
Yeah.
That
Awesome.
that's and usually the customer already knows, Tommy. So
Right. Right. Um, I was going to ask you a question specifically about customer loyalty and how do you keep the customers coming back? But I feel like you've made that pretty apparent from the get-go on how you do that. It's a very much a cultural. It comes from your mission statement. It comes from the folks that you choose to add to your team. Uh, I thought it very interesting, and I wonder what folks listening to this call say about this. But like a comment that you made in passing was just like, to slow down a little bit. That seems counterintuitive to just in any business in general, at build ups or whatever business, doesn't really matter. Like it's all about fast growth, right? And making sure that you outrun and outbeat the competition. And I think it's really interesting that you use that phrase to like slow down a little bit, because I do also think in addition to it being like from a customer experience standpoint, in addition to it being like, oh wow, this person's really taking care and being methodical, it's also like a stop the scroll in my phone kind of thing. Like, whoa, like this is a different experience than what I'm feeling. Like I'm not feeling hustled, I'm not feeling sold to, I'm feeling like I'm actually being taken care of. Is that a fair assessment for me to make here?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I would say that we're playing the long game. You know, we're here to make sure that our customers are happy throughout the entire experience of, throughout the entire year, not just one quick in and out. I would say it's very hard for new technicians that start with us to get into the mindset of slowing down. A lot of them think that, hey, they want me moving as fast as possible, producing that, revenue. When in reality, yes, it is nice, but we value that relationship and that customer a lot more than we value you burning through service calls as fast as you can.
Yeah, and one other thing I'd add, RC, to repeat customers is that we're selective with the customers that we'll do work for. We find some customers, all they care about is price. They want it done as cheap as possible, sometimes not even up to code. Those customers aren't a good fit for us. Hey, sorry, we probably aren't a good fit for you. Here's a couple other names you might try. So we try to be very selective and pick the customers that kind of fit what we are looking for in a customer as well. I think that's helped us a lot.
Do you think that that is something that can be done? Is that a realistic approach for younger companies, right? Can they afford to be selective in their customers, or is there a different tack that they should take in order to subscribe to what you're talking about, which is like slowing down a little bit and being more intentional, but also the reality of like, they they're competing with much more deeper rooted companies in their market.
Well, my guess is probably a bit of a spectrum, right? So we've been here long enough that I think we can afford to fire customers from time to time.
Right.
Someone that's just starting off, they might not be able to fire a customer after the first job with them, but maybe after a year of doing work for them, they've got 3 other customers and they can't afford to fire them at that point.
Yeah.
So my guess would be that's a bit of a spectrum, and sometimes you might have to know that, hey, starting out, I'm gonna deal with some customers that I don't particularly enjoy working with, but I'm gonna do it to get started. And once I'm established and I find the customers that I do want, then I can move to them.
Yeah. We got a few minutes left. I want to shift to one more thing. I want to talk a little bit about data, and have an understanding if even data does play a role. How does it play a role in having you kind of break that seasonal slump? How do you use, what kind of data do you use? How do you use it in order to ensure that you're kind of staying busy all year long?
Yeah, so this might be a little more difficult for us to answer on the service side than on our construction side.
Mm-hmm.
With our construction division, we're forecasting 18 months out and looking at what's our backlog, what's coming up, what large jobs are we on, what are we coming off of. Service is not quite that easy because every once in a while we have a job in service that'll last a month or more.
Yeah.
As far as labor goes, but typically it's pretty quick stuff.
Yeah.
I would say historically speaking, we probably haven't looked at data as much as some other companies would have. I would say, to our point earlier, we make an effort to treat our customers right, treat our employees right, and the data has kind of taken care of itself. If that makes sense. I would say, it's not to say we don't look at any data. We want to look at profitability. We want to look at how profitable specific customers are doing, how profitable the whole department's doing. I think we also mentioned, just before hopping on the call, RC, that there are also, probably as everyone here knows, it's doing PM agreements. When your busy times are. Or should I say busier times, hey, we know that we have significantly more PM agreements dropping this time of the year. And so we kind of ahead of time, we might be chatting with the guys about, hey, we might be working longer weeks coming up. Do we have any volunteers that are willing to work? We're working 410s. So do we have any volunteers that be willing to work on your day off, or work a little bit longer? Yeah, Andy, you have any from what you've seen, anything to add to that?
The only thing I could say is, like, we know that from historical data that our busiest time is like the summertime, you know, so I'd say late May through mid to late July. And then we also know that another busy time for us is going to be during the heating season, you know, and a lot of heating exchanges, boilers are down. So, and that will probably typically start around 1st of November. So what do? We know that right in between those seasons it's going to be kind of slow. So we'll try to make sure that, hey, we schedule as many preventative maintenances during those slower times and then be available for service calls and repairs during the busier times.
I have a random question for you. Just mentioned 2 peak seasons here. Um, do you, and again, you might not be dissecting the data enough to see any kind of like bell curve shift or anything like that, but I do wonder with summers getting hotter and longer and winters kind of shifting in the experience for there as well, if you are seeing like either an extension of one season or the other as a result of this kind of like climate shift that we're experiencing. Just a random question.
Yeah, I don't know that we'd say we've seen that. This past year, it probably hit at slightly different times than it has in the past. Like in our particular area, it warmed up probably a little quicker than it typically would have, and
Yeah.
also cooled off a little quicker than it typically would have.
Okay.
So it was like the seasons maybe shifted just a little bit.
Yeah.
Once again, that could have just been specific to our area.
Sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we've seen that, hey, you know, all of a sudden summertime is, you know, 5 months instead of 3 months, or anything like that.
Sweet. Well, I promised to keep everyone for 30 minutes and we're just about at time. So I'll give one more opportunity for anyone to ask any questions that they want to. And as a heads up again, I'll email you all probably tomorrow. So check your inboxes then with the full recording of this this webinar. And also I'll kind of try to sum away some of the talking points as well in an email. So you'll kind of get that as well. But seeing no other questions, anything else you guys wanted to add before we kind of wrap up here?
I think the only other thing I'd add, just to emphasize again, is, you know, I mentioned our mission statement, our core values,
Yeah.
and the people that you have on your team. You know, I really think that's what it all comes down to, is the folks that you have on your team. We're blessed to have a phenomenal team here, and I really think that's been a huge part of what's led to the success that we've seen. It's just the folks that we have here. Yeah, just big part of it, I think.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much. Honestly, I appreciate it. And shout out again to Unified Group for connecting us for this conversation. One final note to everyone in attendance. If you have any kind of ideas of topics we should dissect or dive into, or folks that we should talk to about these things, let us know in my email tomorrow. I'll give you some contact information to do that. And if you have any questions for the guys here that you didn't want to ask today, you can reply back to the email and I'll make sure that they get that that question. Other than that, thanks so much. Again, I'll shoot out the email with the recording. And Matt, Andy, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the season.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Take care.